Welcome to Recess for Teachers. In a time when teachers are being asked to do more with less and teacher burnout is at an all-time high, we hope this podcast and the companion newsletter can inspire and uplift teachers. We will celebrate teacher successes by featuring an amazing teacher each month, and will speak to educators with varying backgrounds and experiences to provide useful tips, strategies, and anecdotes.
I'm Jason Panek.
And I am Megan Panek.
Together we own Pampered Teacher, a small business that sells unique and thoughtfully curated gift boxes for teachers. We have multiple purchase options from a one-time box to a monthly subscription. I'm in charge of running the business.
And I am a high school language arts teacher and instructional coach who helps him when I can. I have taught for 17 years in both the face-to-face classroom and online. I currently teach juniors and seniors at a technical high school here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Our September Teacher of the Month is Sarahi Monterrey. She has taught for 15 years and is currently an English as a second language teacher at Waukesha North High School in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And this past year, she was named Wisconsin Teacher of the Year by the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. So when they announced that, they threw a big assembly for you. How exciting was that?
Wow, that was super exciting. I was so surprised. So it's definitely a humbling experience for sure. I mean, I was just blown away. I didn't expect it. So definitely a nice surprise.
So our first question takes everything back to the beginning. And it's a question we will start with for every Teacher of the Month. And that is, what was your path to becoming a teacher?
Yeah, so, it's interesting because ever since I was a little girl, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. Like when we played school, I was always a teacher. And yeah, it was just funny because I just enjoyed it. There are a lot of teachers in my family. My dad used to be a high school teacher in El Salvador. My grandfather was a high school teacher. I have uncles and aunts who have been teachers as well. So it seems like it's in our blood. When I went to college, I attended UW Whitewater, and there I right away knew I wanted to go into the College of Education. And I had one time where someone was like, you'd be great in communications. And it was like you gave it that like split second thought, and then it was like, no, education. So
That's where you want to be.
Yes. And then, being in high school, I just remember a lot of times hearing a lot about the dropout rates for Latino students. And that's really what motivated me to want to become an ESL teacher, a bilingual teacher. I just knew there was such a need. And when I reflected on my educational experience and not having really any teachers of color, I had my kindergarten teacher, Mr. Hernandez in New York, was the only teacher I had who was a Latino teacher. And so to me, I just, we always, one of my favorite quotes from Gandhi, right? Be the change you wish to see in the world. And so I thought, well, I can become a teacher and I could be that role model for students. And so that's really what motivated me to, head that path towards bilingual teacher.
So your family is from El Salvador originally. When did you come to the United States?
Yeah, so I came when I was 1 year old. There was a civil war going on in El Salvador, and so we had the opportunity to come to this country, where it's really that American dream. We were refugees, when you have a country torn by war, your family, all they want is for their children to be safe and for their children to have a brighter future. And so, I was one when my family moved to Long Island, New York.
So Sarahi, stepping out of your family teacher lineage for a little bit, who were some of the best teachers that you had and what made them memorable?
Yeah. So, I think of two of my high school teachers right away who really just showed they cared. They went that extra mile to encourage me. I felt like they really saw the potential in me. And so they always looked at how to keep me motivated and just engaged. And they always said things to me like, man, you're really bright. You can do this. And I recall in high school, I was never myself in an ESL program, but I remember I used to help with the ESL program. Like I would tutor students. And I remember in high school, whenever I got a chance, I would ask, can I go to the ESL room? And I specifically remember my chemistry teacher where I remember one day saying, oh, can I go to the ESL room and work on this assignment? And he said, you're such a bright young lady. Like I know that I could send you over there, right? But he's like, I'm your chemistry teacher. Like, he's like, I know your ESL, the ESL teacher is great. He's like, but I know this content. Like, if you have questions, I know that I may be able to answer the questions better, like I could help you with this. And the fact that he took that time to say, took that ownership of me as a student and saying, I can help you and I know you can do this and there's no need for you to really leave. And I was like, I want to say he might have been the only teacher who ever responded that way when I asked to go to the ESL room. And I thought that was really neat that he wanted to build that relationship. So when I think of those teachers that really had an impact on me, it was really those teachers who took that time to build that relationship and get to know more about me.
All about relationships.
Yeah,
I mean, that's 90% of education.
exactly. It's so key.
You currently teach ESL at Waukesha North High School, like I said before. What is the best thing about teaching English as a second language?
I love the fact that when you have students who are learning the language, just think of how intimidating that is. I mean, and especially when they come at the high school level, they're dealing with having to learn the second language, but also having to learn about a new culture and how to adjust. And the fact that they could have me there and make them feel welcome, to me, is so important. And that's what I love about it, knowing that, yes, this could be so scary for them, but yet they have the support to make them feel welcomed at school, which then ultimately makes a huge difference in allowing them to be successful and to really feel, comfortable at school. And to me, that's very rewarding to know that even the families, I mean, so many times when students come in, not only do I work with the student, but also their families. And I've had a lot of families that say, wow, thank you so much, because you could tell they just feel so much at ease that knowing they can have a place where they can count on us to, provide them the support that they need. Any questions that they have, we always tell families, feel free to call us. And then to see the students' growth, I mean, I've had students that they come in and they speak one or two words, and by the time they graduate high school, just to see the growth and that they can have conversations and just academically, what they're able to do, is amazing.
What are some of the biggest challenges or roadblocks to you teaching English as a second language?
Yeah, it's interesting because the fact that at the high school setting, students have a schedule with 8 hours in their day, right? And that means they're going to all these different classes. And if, let's say you have in a year, 8 newcomers coming recently to the country, not knowing any English, and how to really provide support for students in all the areas, it's a big challenge because they're going to have different classes, different teachers. So we really try to get creative with how do we meet those students' needs and at the same time provide teachers the support that they need, so that they can really work with students, because we're not able to be in all of the classes. We have some classrooms where I have, a couple where I will co-teach, and then I have some that I go in and I support, but that we can't do that for every single class. And so there are classes where students will be in and we get creative with how to make sure they're understanding the content and that they are feeling comfortable. Another challenge too is just, I think we have to do a lot of work with just shifting the mindset that a lot of times ESL students, they're viewed as, like a deficit. Oh, they come in, they don't know the language, and a lot of times we think of the things that they're not able to do, but really, there's so much that they come into our classrooms with that they are able to do. So how to change that mindset from a deficit model to an asset model and look at what is it that our students are coming with and how do we build from that. And once students realize oh yeah, I have this that I can bring to the classroom and we build off of that, it helps them. They feel more motivated. They feel encouraged. So that's something key that I think just in schools in general is very important to focus on, that asset model.
Yes, going from a deficit model to an asset model is something being talked about a lot in education right now. And it's so important for all students, really, but especially ESL students, like you pointed out.
Correct.
So, building on something you said before, you were talking about when ESL students come into school, they're overwhelmed with learning a new language. They might even be new to the country. So, they really have to learn the structure of school and how it works in the United States. Therefore, teaching them the procedures of school and the procedures of the classroom becomes very important so they feel like they belong and they understand what's happening every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's also important at the elementary level, too, when students are just starting their school experience. So, what are a few classroom procedures that you like to focus on at the start of the school year that help the rest of the school year go smoother? This is a big topic we will focus on in September.
Great, yes. So one of the main things is that building community. So there are many different things that, sometimes we view it as the school year starts, and I know sometimes we want to get going right away where I've got to cover this and I've got to cover that. But just the expectation of building that community, allowing students the opportunity to get to know each other and learn about each other is key because it's going to set that tone of that class environment and allow them to feel comfortable going on into the rest of the year. In classrooms where there are a lot of ESL students, another neat strategy that could be used is setting up like bilingual pairs. So if you know someone who's new to the country and there's a student who is bilingual, maybe setting up that bilingual pair so they can work off of each other and help each other up, build each other is a good strategy to use. And setting the tone of high expectations right from the beginning of the year. Knowing that again, that asset model and saying, we're going to be covering all this and you can do it. I believe that you can do it, and setting that tone for the high expectations is key.
Yeah, I really like that idea of pairs and maybe even groups. Going through so many changes and knowing you're not alone and someone else is having to learn the same new things, especially at that age in high school, it probably makes them feel a whole lot better about everything they're going through.
Yes. Another thing that would also help is, so right away from the beginning of the year, the more visuals that are available for ESL students and really all students, what we know is that a lot of strategies that can be used for English learners really benefit everyone in the classroom, right? So if we have those visuals up and word walls, things that the students can right away, it's like, okay, if I'm getting stuck here, here's my anchor chart and I can refer to this and here's some word walls. Those things are just beneficial for all students.
You're right, and that is the key. As teachers start to bring in strategies for ESL students, other students benefit from those strategies as well. It's
Yep.
really about being willing to individualize strategies for students.
Yes.
So, something I don't think many people are aware of is that September 15th through October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month in the US. Do you guys celebrate that in your ESL classroom? Are there specific ways you go about celebrating the Hispanic heritage of students in your classroom?
Yes, definitely. And it's always tricky because I feel like it comes so quickly in the beginning of the year. And I always tell myself that I want to do more. And actually yesterday I was just meeting with my colleague who teaches with me in the department. And I said, okay, this year I feel like we need to get together over the summer and plan it so that we could really have like to the point of like the type of celebration that we would like to see. But we definitely highlight right away. I always start my class with a quote of the day. And I try to, all year have quotes that are representative of, just multicultural, famous people, motivational speakers. And so I make sure to keep that where it's representative of different, groups of people. For Latino Heritage Month, I definitely make sure, like, okay, let's make sure we're knowing, who's Sonia Sotomayor, who's, just having those quotes by inspirational Latino figures, and we start off that way. Also just even allowing students to share their stories and, what are traditions that they celebrate and cherish from their families. So it's an opportunity because, most of I would say probably about like 96% of the students in our department are from, Hispanic heritage, giving them the opportunity to highlight their traditions and how, the things that are unique to their family and their culture and letting them share that. We do have a display board next to in our room, and so that all students, when they walk by, they can read. And so we've had students kind of share a little bit about them through that display. And so that's something that we'll be also highlighting with more of the culture focus as we start the school year and approaching Latino Heritage Month.
And really, at the start of the school year, you're trying to get to know the students. You want them to get to know more about each other. And so in the classroom,
Yep.
you could have students tell more about their heritage or their favorite family tradition
Yep.
as a get to know you activity. And that could happen in any classroom.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, because our podcast is called Recess for Teachers and we want it to be informational but also fun, we want to end with a silly question every time. So, this is my fun question to you, Sarahi. What is one of the best things you did this summer?
Oh, yes. So, let's see, we go to the Kalahari is always a really nice tradition that we have. That's in Wisconsin Dells. They have the big water parks and we just had family in town. Family is so important. And so we had family from Arkansas visiting and just seeing all the cousins together. That definitely is what just brings joy, that opportunity to have family together.
Yeah, so how many teachers were at this family get together?
Yeah, it's funny because we have definitely a lot of teachers in my family, and we have my sister-in-law is going to be a principal at Whittier this coming school year.
Oh.
Yeah, yes. So yes, we have a lot of talks about education, that's for sure.
That's how it is in my family, too. Several of my aunts and cousins are teachers.
Yeah,
I think it's genetic and runs in the family.
it's true, it's true.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We've learned a lot from you, and I hope the teachers listening are gathering good ideas. We're so happy you are one of Wisconsin's Teachers of the Year, and we hope you have a wonderful school year.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure to do. Thank you.
We will end each podcast with a mantra because we believe in the power of them to inspire. The word mantra is Sanskrit for that which, when reflected upon, gives liberation. We hope our monthly mantras will help liberate you of negative thoughts and replace those with positive ones. Repeat them to yourself whenever you need a pick-me-up. This month's mantra will appear in our September back to school box, but we won't tell you how. It will be a surprise. Our September mantra is, I am capable, brave, and significant, even when it feels like I am not.
We hope all of you listening have a smooth start to the school year. We'll be back in October featuring another Teacher of the Month. Please remember to follow our podcast, like us on social media, and check out our boxes at pamperedteacher.com.